Start pretty soon, but can everyone hear me on the Zoom meeting?
Yes.
All right, good.
Yes.
All right, let's gavel us in here. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority regular board meeting, March 22nd, 2024. The board did meet in executive session. No votes were taken, discussed some new initiatives and some projects. So let's start with roll call.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Peg McCormick Barron,
Here.
Jamil Bay,
Here.
Michael Demott,
Here.
BJ Lieber,
Here.
James Martin,
Present.
Dr. Merle,
Here.
Mr. Shuley,
Here.
Erica Strasburger.
Here.
Thank you. We have begin. Quorum, all board members are present.
Very good. Do we have any speakers for public comment?
No.
All right. We'll start with the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of February 23rd, 2024. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second, is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the regular board meeting minutes of February 23rd, 2024, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we'll move to, sorry.
Switch my thing. Yes.
We're good. Okay. Confirmation of CEO approvals. All CEO approvals from the prior month are confirmed. And we'll move now to the PWSA staff reports and updates. And we start with finance. Do we have, oh, they're hiding behind the podium there.
Good morning, PWSA Board of Directors. The financial status update report included in your board packet is through February 9th, 2024. Within the report, you will see that year-to-date receipts totaled 32 million or 13.4% of the total budget. Within February, PWSA experienced stronger than expected receipts from stormwater and other miscellaneous and fee charges by collecting 2.5 million compared to the budgeted amount of 2.3 million, representing an increase of $200,000. Water, disk water, wastewater conveyance, and disk wastewater conveyance receipts in February totaled 12.9 million compared to the budget amount of 13.9 million, representing an under collection amount of 1 million. The bulk of this under collection is due to the timing of payments and will be recovered over the next few months. Total forecasted year-end receipts are expected to be 239 million, representing an increase of $462,000 as compared to the original adopted budget. Departmental operating expenditures through February 2024 totaled $16.5 million or 13.6% of the budget. Capital expenditures through that same time period totaled 15 million or 8.1% of the total budget. 37 million in debt service costs have been paid through February 29th, 2024, which represents 43.2% of the total budget. Forecasted year-end debt service is projected to be 86 million or about $36,000 lower than the original budget. These savings are a result of lower than expected PennVest debt service payments. PWSA's cash balance on February 29th, 2024 was $61.3 million, which is about 6 million lower compared to February 28th of 2023. However, this decline in cash will increase once PWSA receives several pending reimbursements from PennVest as part of the normal reimbursement process. This concludes my report for today. I will turn it back over to the board for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding the finance report? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to engineering. Rachel.
Good morning, Chair Shuley and members of the board. I'll begin with an update on our drinking water programs, specifically our lead service line replacements. Progress continues, and a total of 10,927 public and 7,699 private side lead service lines have been replaced through March 20th, 2024 across all contracts. Regarding our neighborhood lead service line replacements, work is currently ongoing in the Marshall, Shadeland, and Homewood North neighborhoods, and minor replacement work is wrapping up in Troy Hill, Bluff, and Perry South. We are also actively replacing lead service lines in 6 additional neighborhoods under our small diameter water main replacement contracts. In total, we currently have 6 active construction contracts involving lead service line replacements in various stages, including verification, construction, and restoration. As mentioned last month, we're still moving forward on a new set of lead service line contracts related to the recent Penvest award of $32.1 million. We are in the procurement process, and we will be before you in April and May with our CMCI and construction contracts respectively for award. This work is planned to start in August and will take place in approximately 11 neighborhoods. Lastly, on lead service lines, we submitted our lead service line replacement program as required by regulation to the Public Utility Commission in February. We have received comments for which we are preparing responses. Moving on to the water reliability plan projects. Construction continues for the Highland Reservoir Pump Station project with the drilling and installation of deep foundations. For the combined projects, including the Aspenwall Pump Station, Brecken Pump Station, and Clearwell Bypass, also known as the ABC projects, we will be preparing the project documents for bidding over the coming months and hope to receive the DEP construction permit shortly. The design RFP is currently out for bid for the Clearwell replacement project. Proposals for this capstone project are due May 1st. Finally, on the water reliability plan, the design RFP for the Aspenwall and Fox Chapel interim feed project will be released shortly to our on-call consultants. Moving on to construction projects, the following are currently out for bid: 2024 urgent water repair, 2024 large diameter main replacement, Aspenwall water treatment plant, aka Pittsburgh water treatment plant, chemical unloading area improvements and underground storage tank removal and replacement. It's a long one. And the interconnection vault stormwater removal, both general and electrical. Moving on to outreach on March 7th, moving on to requests for qualifications. On March 7th, engineering officially initiated our request for qualifications process to solicit qualifications for engineering on-call contracts for various categories of projects. As mentioned last month, this process happens every 3 to 5 years to establish master service agreements with qualified consultants. Qualification packages are due on April 22nd, which will be followed by an intensive internal review and selection process. Moving on to outreach, this past Wednesday, March 20th, PWSA held the Water Reliability Plan Contractor Outreach event at the Convention Center. It was well attended with 126 representatives from local and regional contractors, consultants, and vendors. We thank all those who attended to learn about these critical construction projects, and we recognize our Public Affairs Department for organizing this well-orchestrated event. Finally, last evening, numerous PWSA board members and employees attended the Engineers Society of Western Pennsylvania's annual banquet. And I wanted to share that our Director of Engineering, Barry King, has been active with ESWP for 4 years, has served on the board of directors for over 3 years, and was just elected to serve a second 3-year board term. Thank you, Barry, for representing PWSA in this important organization. This concludes my report. I will turn it over for any questions.
Thanks, Rachel. Any questions or comments for Rachel? Well, a couple things. I drove by the new Highland pump station in Highland Park, and quite a different looking site now with all of the construction equipment and so forth, and obviously a very important project. The other is, thank you for mentioning Barry. It's good to have him representing on our board. Last night's banquet was, I think, a huge success. Nice to see as many folks out there. I think there were more than 650 people that attended,
Okay.
and a couple of board members and so forth. So that was great. And then also the outreach that you mentioned. I talked to a couple of contractors afterwards who thought it was very helpful in terms of getting to know where our projects are and what's coming up and so forth. So
Okay.
congrats to the engineering team and public relations and others who participated in that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to environmental compliance and ethics. Mr. Saderi.
Great. Good morning, board. So this month, I'm going to be presenting to you a resolution shortly, requesting authorization for our CEO to sign documents associated with a consent assessment of civil penalty. So I want to take a moment here this morning to provide you a little background on this document, along with some of our response and corrective actions for this event. First, the consent assessment is associated with an event that occurred back in June of 2023, so last year, at one of our construction sites where work was occurring to disinfect a critical water line after completing a repair. During the disinfection process, a container known as a tote, on some of those big square white containers you may see sometimes. But this tote of sodium hypochlorite or chlorine that was under the control of one of our contractors failed and resulted in a release of chlorine to a storm drain and then subsequently into an adjacent waterway. Upon notification of this release, PWSA promptly responded. We made all required reports to public agencies, including DEP, and we mobilized emergency crews to clean up the release, which was completed that very same day before evening. We also completed all required follow-up and reporting to DEP as well as the state following this event. Through the consent assessment process, though, DEP did establish a civil penalty of $10,000 for this accidental release. As I report to you monthly, PWSA takes environmental compliance efforts associated with our operations and our construction projects extremely seriously. We've implemented several different programs to help minimize our environmental impact and comply with those regulatory requirements. I wanted to share with you all a few of the examples of these programs relative to this event in particular. First, construction specifications were updated last year to include requirements for submittals of job-specific environmental protection and waste management plans by our contractors. This has now been implemented on all of our projects. And among other items, these submittals require the contractors to identify if they'll be storing any bulk chemicals or fuels on site and how those products will be managed. So this is including requirements for secondary containment, spill procedures, spill kits, SDS forms, all the stuff that should be on site if a bulk chemical is brought to a construction location. Secondly, environmental compliance is now present and has been for last year and into this year at all of our construction kickoff meetings with our contractors, our CMCI firms, as well as our PWSA project managers in attendance. The purpose of us being there is to talk about those environmental protection and waste management plans and also continue to emphasize our commitment to environmental compliance and ethics, as well as safety at these pre-construction meetings. Third, we developed a learning lesson specifically related to this particular event. And it's been shared with our contractors and CMCI firms, as well as engineering staff. And this was done immediately within the month following that particular event. And really what the purpose of this was to help raise awareness to change. So we need to recognize if there is a change on a construction project, something out of the routine, such as bringing a bulk chemical on site. And also in this learning lesson, we provided some background on proper storage and handling of chemicals and things to look out for when that occurs. And finally, turning to our internal operations, we have last year even provided and distributed spill kits that we now have in many of our PWSA field vehicles. And these allow us to respond quickly in the event of an accidental release. And we continue to provide training to our staff at our weekly tailgate meetings. Some of these include topics on spill kits and proper use, chemical delivery and handling, and spill procedures. All of these really are to continue to help raise staff awareness around proper chemical handling and spill response. In conclusion, our contractors and CMCI firms are representing PWSA on our construction projects as we continually work to invest and update our infrastructure at sites throughout our service area. Construction projects are not without risk, but my hope is that through this continual focus on environmental compliance as well as safety integration, that risk can be minimized and future events like this one associated with consent assessment of this release can be prevented. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I always let everybody know that they can reach out to me, our consultants, our contractors, as well as the board and our staff, if you have questions regarding compliance or ethics. So thank you.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Sederi?
Sorry, somebody else.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just had one quick question. What was there a fine for the contractor?
The fine was related to PWSA as the contractor was working at our site. So we were considered the generator. So currently we're talking with engineering and evaluating that fine as well as the cleanup costs and how they may be assessed. So that's something we are looking into, but it was specifically directed to PWSA as the owner of the site.
Thanks. I was trying to visualize this a little better. So if the catch basin was the conduit, I'm guessing the tote was on a pallet on the roadside upgrade from the catch basin.
Yes, so the position of the tote was 60, 80 feet up a curb line from a catch basin that then went to a surface water.
Yeah, so in addition to containment, just sort of being aware where catch basins are and where you park stuff, I guess, is
correct.
Kind of in the mix too.
Yep. And that was part of that learning lesson that we've passed along and we've talked about is kind of, when that change happens, take a look at those things. So in this particular case, the catch basin went to a waterway, not a combined sewer. But thinking about things such as secondary containment, having spill kits available, or putting booms or drain blockers in certain areas to, slow down or mitigate a release is something that we've been talking about to recognize. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Which waterway was impacted?
Sure. This particular tote was, this was the work that we were doing last year around the supply line that was near the Highland Park Bridge. So there was some events there where we were working there. The point we were disinfecting that line was located in Millvale. So the waterway was Gertie's Run in that area.
Well, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but speaking personally, I am disappointed that DEP chose to take this action 6 months after the incident, especially when it was all self-reported. And all of the measures that you mentioned, Frank, that were taken by PWSA to mitigate the problem, yet they still chose to fine the authority $10,000. So, I mean, I'm personally disappointed that isn't handled in a more efficient manner, especially given, the compliance efforts that we have taken. So, but thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Mr. CEO, you're up.
Good morning, Chair Shuley, members of the board, PWSA staff, members of the public, our consultant business partners in the room. It's fantastic to be back in Pittsburgh after a couple days in Washington, D.C. I attended the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies Water Policy Conference for a few days and had an opportunity to engage with members of Congress, EPA officials, to talk about the national water agenda, and just wanted to share with this group some of the things that as an industry, PWSA is participating in an advocacy on Capitol Hill and with our regulators. The first is a topic that we talk about a lot. It's water infrastructure investment from the federal government. We've had this, what I sometimes call once in a generation investment through the bipartisan infrastructure law. My hope is that it will not be once in a generation, because in terms of the need, and EPA has the data nationally, this is a drop in the bucket compared to the true need for our aging infrastructure. So that's something we're engaging our policymakers about. The second is creating a permanent low-income household water assistance program. So folks may have heard of LIHEAP. That's a federal program that's existed for decades that provides assistance for natural gas and electricity for low-income residents of the country. It's a national program. There's no such program on the water and wastewater side. However, during COVID, a lot of us, especially our employees, realized the importance that water services provide for public health. And that's not just the water that we provide to public health facilities, but making sure that we were not disconnecting people from water during the COVID crisis. So the federal government created this LIWAP program for that very need. And actually PWSA customers benefited by receiving $2 million approximately of this federal assistance. Those funds are off the table now. So PWSA is just one example of utilities across the country that had that need. There's a belief, and I believe strongly, and I know our customer service folks, our CARES team dedicated to this population believes that this is a program that should be available year round and permanently. The federal government should champion that. And then the third issue is one that is a little more relevant to utilities that are struggling currently with PFAS issues. But as PFAS regulation continues to ratchet down through EPA, may be relevant for us. And that's limiting the liability that we as water providers have for being sued for having to treat PFAS and dealing with the residual waste from that treatment. Right now, a water utility, a public water utility like us could be sued depending on where they're disposing of that, sort of spent filtration or however they're dealing with PFAS. So the idea is to create a waiver for utilities so they're not sued related to PFAS. And CERCLA is the very technical issue at play there, but that's another priority before Congress. So along with those policy issues, I was really excited to participate in a discussion at the conference related to environmental justice, where I was able to share our approach to intentionally engage the public. And even just this month, we had the first of what will be recurring meetings in environmental justice neighborhoods. We were at the Hazelwood Initiative doing a state of the PWSA presentation to engage with communities, let them know about our projects and our programs, and engage them in conversations. We're going to continue those discussions throughout the year, and in the coming weeks, we'll be in the Hill District to provide a similar presentation. And then, finally, I just want to call attention. One of our core values is safety. Frank sometimes has an opportunity to talk about safety, and Casey Stewart will be before us with a resolution here in a bit. But in terms of employee safety, our metrics are trending very positively so far. The year is young, but we're looking better than we did around this time last year. We have no lost time incidents so far. And at the end of February, our recordable rate of injury was at 1.47 compared to our target of 5.4. So we really like what we're seeing so far, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to remind any staff or our contractors who are working with us to not lose that focus. And we want to maintain this trend. Casey and his team provide a tremendous amount of leadership with safety, but it really is everyone's responsibility to make sure we're approaching everything we do, regardless of where we work, with safety in mind. So with that, I will wrap up my remarks, but happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Great. Any questions or comments for Will?
Just one comment to echo further the importance of Will said. On the drinking water side, there's the additional burden of treatment. Waste treatment's also another kind of utility, and they are also kind of in not quite the same but similar pickle. They're point generators of PFAS, and sometimes concentration increasers through the reaction of precursors, and they're likewise possibly to be held accountable and incur additional expense from treatment from things that they're just receiving. They're not truly really generating. So this is kind of a widespread issue through all aspects of the water utility verse.
Right. Good. Thank you. Any other comments? Question? We'll just want to mention that, thank you for participating in the conference and continuing this outreach for PWSA and getting the word out about the work that we're doing and being recognized and acknowledged as a leader in the industry for so many different things, and certainly in the area of environmental justice, which is so important. So thank you for doing that.
I'm honored to do it. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. All right, very good. We'll move to the resolutions, and we'll start with resolution number 12. Kevin. You don't look like Ed Barker, but that's okay.
Not today. Approving the reimbursement resolution for the 2022 small diameter water main replacement contract A lead project is part of the closing process.
All right, very good. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jamil. A sec, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Erica. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 12, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, resolution number 12 is approved. We move to resolution number 13. Rachel,
This is approving a change of a capital contract for construction of the 2023 valve replacement project to Independent Enterprises and an amendment of professional services agreement capital for construction management and inspection services to Hatch Associates. Cumulative capital budget $456,000. This is our annual IDIQ indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity valve replacement contract. Much of the budget was expended on 5 very large valve replacements. So this additional will ensure that we have enough remaining through the end of the contract in September for additional valves that may come up.
I'm a little confused. I have here, this is the sewer reconstruction. We have the right contractor. Is it part of the valve contract?
You might have
I may have it.
Oh, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, now I'm up to speed. All right, thank you. All right, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 13, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution number 13 is approved. We move to resolution 14.
Approving the award of a capital contract for construction of the 2024 sewer reconstruction project to Independent Enterprises, capital budget $1,739,850.
Very good. May I have a motion?
Motion, so moved.
Thank you, Jamil. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Erica. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 14, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, resolution number 14 is approved. We move to resolution number 15. Mr. Saderi.
Right. Resolution number 15 is authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to execute the consent assessment of civil penalty documents from the Department of Environmental Protection, approve associated penalties associated with the Chief Executive Officer sign-in authority, and submit those required documents and payments to the Department of Environmental Protection in a timely manner.
Very good. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Erica. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? So what does a timely manner mean in this case?
There was some standard language that DEP required for this resolution. And so some of that's taken from this. In this case, we have to have these submitted by March 29th, next Friday, to have the check and everything signed and back to them.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 15, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? All right, resolution number 15 is approved. We move to resolution 16. Mr. Casey Stewart. We're keeping our fingers crossed on this safety stuff, you know.
Yeah.
There's only a quarter of the year, but good work.
Thank you. Thank you. I owe a lot to our operations management team as well for really facilitating that. So resolution number 16 is approving the award of a contract for security officer services to A&A Security Group in the amount of $336,490 for year one. This is this contract does include 3 one-year optional extensions, which would bring the total amount to $1,407,748.65. That includes a 3% increase each year. if all three option years are executed. This would all be out of the operating budget on an annual basis. So over that 5-year span, that the total would be $1,407,748.65.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion?
So move, Mike Donovan.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second, BJ.
All right, BJ, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of resolution number 16, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, resolution number 16 is approved. We move to resolution 17
Thank you.
and Rachel Bean, part 2.
Approving an amendment of professional services agreement, capital for design services for the South Side Stormwater Infrastructure Improvement Project to Ethos Collaborative, capital budget approximately $174,000. This amendment will allow us to perform additional required soil sampling, as well as perform some redesign that will help minimize the amount of spoils that need to be hauled off-site to a landfill.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Jamil. Is there a second?
Second, Peg.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 17, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, resolution 17 is approved.
Thank
Move
you.
to the resolution number 18. The other BJ McFadden. Thank you, BJ.
Or maybe
morning.
I'm the other BJ.
Good morning. Resolution number 18, approving the award of multiple capital contracts for the large meter replacement project to Neptune Technology Group Incorporated, LB Water Service Incorporated, and Exeter Supply Company Incorporated. This is out of the capital budget for $1,569,518.20.
Very good. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Jamil, is there a second?
Second.
Martin.
Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 18, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, resolution number 18 is approved. That completes the resolutions. Are there any other business items to come before the board? I would like to take a moment here at this point to indicate that we lost a couple of great leaders and strong advocates for the authority over the last couple of weeks, Jim Roddy and Jared Cohen. And I know that BJ and I'm sure Peg as well have lots of stories about Jim Roddy. Jim actually served as the first chair of the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority Board, served from 1984 to 1989. I had the pleasure of working with Jim both as a director of engineering and director of the city water department. He was a very unique individual, but a terrific person, a great public servant, and one of my little stories here is that at one point, Frank, might enjoy this. DEP indicated that they wanted to cut the allocation that PWSA could take from the Allegheny River, and they wanted to reduce it from 120 million gallons a day to 65 million gallons a day, which many of you know, 65 is pretty close to the daily allocation for the authority. And I told Jim at the time, I said, this isn't good for us. We need to stop this. And we were also actively trying to sell water to other municipalities. And so arrangements were made for us to go to Harrisburg and to make a presentation. And Jim called and he said, pick me up. He lived in Squirrel Hill. I picked him up and we spent the next 3 hours in the car, and he said, well, explain to me how the plant operates and, why this is important, all of the various nuances of this. And, after driving for about an hour, I told him, I asked him, I said, are you making this presentation or am I making this presentation? And he said, I'm making this presentation. And I must have had a quizzical look on my face, like, why are you doing it? And he looked at me and he said, I have it. I got it. I said, okay. And so we made a presentation to a group of legislators and to members of DEP. And Jim made this presentation 100 times better than I could have made the presentation. And within 30 days, we received a letter from DEP saying that they rescinded their request to change our allocation. So it was really a wonderful development. I know folks from Pennsylvania American were calling me and saying, how did you guys do this? And he said, it was Jim Roddy. And Jim made many other contributions to the authority, and he was a great advocate. Jared Cohen, as many of you know, was the president of Carnegie Mellon University, a civil engineer, an expert in environmental engineering, and Jared served and chaired many committees regarding water and sewer, especially as it pertains to PWSA and to Alcosan. And, Jared was also responsible for chaired the Blue Ribbon Committee, which at the time was a fairly strong push to privatize PWSA, coming from lots of different sources of people who were kind of fed up with the direction that PWSA was currently on, the trends that they were currently on. And there was a strong push to privatize water service here in Pittsburgh. And Jared stood tall and certainly facilitated the information process that allowed us to give us time to make changes. And now, some 10 years later, we're a leader. We've got our CEO speaking in Washington, DC, and having the vice president come here and talk about, the wonderful work that's being done by PWSA. But it was Jared's leadership that allowed us to give us time, to give us that sort of second chance to get our act together. And I thank all of you in terms of the work that you've done out there, staff, the board, everyone that's been involved. So we'll miss them both. But I just wanted to point that out. I think it's important to note some of the folks that have come before us here and led the way. So thank you very much. PJ or Peg, if you'd like to make any comments, it's up to you.
Jim was a mentor and a friend and a great community leader. And I'm just sitting here thinking about a Port Authority board meeting. I worked with Jim when I was at the Port Authority, and Jim was chair of the board. And Rachel, you'll appreciate this. The engineering folks got up with a resolution and asked for money to repair water intrusions in the subway stations. And when they sat down, Jim said, do you mean leaks?
Right. That was a big deal. All right. Any other
I
comments?
just wanted to add that I had worked in different capacities with both, and that I feel very fortunate to be serving on this board, that they both had so much to do with building, strengthening, just real engagement on the important issues of water in this region. So I'm appreciative for their leadership and particularly Jim's ongoing humor.
All right. Thank you, Peg. All right. Well, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Second?
Second.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.